everybody, and welcome to this live Reddit AMA that I'm doing. You will have to excuse me if I'm a bit more sluggish than I am usually. I am still really struggling with a hangover. I spent yesterday all day with Robert Olin. As you can see, I'm wearing a DreamHack t-shirt that I borrowed for staying over purposes. I didn't know I would end up staying over. And we stuck away a good bit to drink and caught up. It was the first time I've seen him in a while, and first time obviously I've seen him since the news about the change of his job. So pretty much ruined me, actually. But I felt like, I wouldn't be able to go out tonight and enjoy myself in any meaningful way. So the best thing to do would be to sort of utilise my time and put some content out there. I know recently, because of First Blood, a lot of people have been interested in finding out a bit more about me and who I am, especially in the League of Legends community. So I thought, why the fuck not do an AMA? I'm going to try and get through as many questions as I can. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do it this way on camera and on my stream was to sort of expedite that process. Because obviously I can answer things a lot quicker than I can typing them out. And we've had lots of questions, lots and lots of questions. I think some will be covered, by broader topics that I can talk about, and I will do it. But I will try and cover every question. We'll broadcast from now for an hour, take a break for about 3 minutes. And then we'll come back and finish up. So, obviously, I'm just waiting for people to filter on the stream. So, if you know anyone who's asked a question and might be interested, by all means, spread the word. So, I'm just going to quickly bring up the Reddit thread in question. Oh, and actually, I suppose, hang on, I haven't even. God, I'm such a bad streamer. I haven't even changed my. The name of the VOD on the stream. It still says it's First Blood 4, so need to change that. Right. There we go. I haven't even... God, I'm such a bad streamer. I haven't even changed my... There we are. Right. And also as well, people in the chat, I've got some Evolve alpha keys as well that I'm going to just paste at random intervals during the AMA. So if you want to bring up your activate a key on Steam window, you'll be able to quickly copy paste them and do with them what you will. So I'll drop them in probably at about every half-hour intervals or something like that. So anyway, right, let's get on with some questions, and thanks to all for joining in. So let's have a look. So at the top, no serious questions. So that's good. Good start. Something about Broken Shard's neckbeard, which I think it's quite fetching. Actually, I don't really think he's got a neckbeard. How is Larry David? Yeah, I can't help but feel that I've got trolled here. Okay, so first real question. What direction are you and Destiny planning to go with Old Boys Club? I was enjoying Unfiltered when it was running, and I wonder if you've been thinking about altering the format of the show in any way. And that's from the Reddit user People Want to Fly Around. Okay, so I was hugely saddened when Unfiltered stopped, and I still kind of feel that, it ended... really prematurely, like so much so that we didn't have a contingency plan. Like none of us had ever talked about what would happen if me or Chris or Destiny decided to leave. Like we never talked about it because I didn't think it was going to happen. Ever since I met Chris, he included me on pretty much all of his content. I did one interview with him for Climbing the Ladder, and Chris basically said, like, you're a guy who, I believe you've got a personality that people, want to see more of. And, I'd never thought about doing any regular shows or any video work at that point, beyond my interviews and, tour guides and stuff. And Chris took a gamble on me and said, let's get you on this show and as a full-time co-host on Climbing the Ladder. And then when the opportunity to join Unfiltered came along, I jumped at the chance and we did a good, solid bunch of shows together. So bringing a replacement around was actually perhaps more difficult than people would have thought. Like, I talked to Chris about ways in which we could keep it called Unfiltered and, have the same theme tune and all the assets and everything like that. But ultimately, that would have involved Chris in a process that he didn't really want to be involved in anymore. He made it clear that he didn't want to work in esports beyond his commitments with Deck Wars. And that he'd already agreed to. And I didn't want to have to, take his copyrighted material and effectively have to keep him in the loop because, that's his brand. He's built that up. And he, therefore, needs to make sure, we don't turn Unfiltered into some awful, cat porn or, just nonsense, whatever. Not that we would do that, but, whatever horrible direction you could take somebody's good work in, for a streaming broadcast. So he'd need to be involved in the creative side of things. And it was just not fair of me to put him in that position. So we decided, we'll get a new idea for a show. So I came up with a load of ideas, and Destiny, I'll be honest, he was really aloof on, he was like, I don't really do names, I don't have any ideas for a name. So that was when I reached out to the community and was like, suggest a name. I'd already drawn up a short list myself. And I've been kicking the idea of the Old Boys Club around for a while because it was the recurring esports joke, that there's an old boys club that prevents people from getting work and whatnot. So one of the things that was great about Unfiltered was that it didn't just have to be esports based. Like, in fact, Steven's best contributions came when it wasn't about esports, when it was about, something topical, like, laws that were being passed about the internet, business monopolies, psychology. These are the things that piqued his interest. Actually, he was quite blasé about a lot of the esports topics unless it was something really incendiary. So I think all of the great moments in Unfiltered came when we were talking about shit that wasn't to do with esports. So we talked about that a lot, me and Steven, and we said, okay, let's get it back to its roots, and let's make sure that we have a show where we can talk about anything and everything. And that's pretty much the direction I think we're going to go in. I think it'll be tangentially linked to esports, but I think ultimately it'll be something where it's like, we're going to grab something that's topical. So, recently it might have been the Gamergate thing or whatever. And, or something in the news. We'll run with it. We'll run with it with another guest, somebody from the Old Boys Club, the esports elite. So it's almost like the fact that we're all involved in esports is kind of irrelevant, really. It's just three dudes having a discussion about a particular topic. And yeah, we'll go over the news. But, I think the other shows I've been doing, First Blood definitely covers League of Legends. Trash Talk definitely covers all games and all the major talking points. So I want Old Boys Club to be something a little bit different to what's already out there. And hopefully we'll get to do a show soon. There was talk of us maybe doing one tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen now. But it'll be Sunday nights when it does start. And obviously you'll all get to know about it. We'll skip that question. Okay, so PVT Dragos asks, hey Richard, thanks for the AMA. What's your opinion on Thorin and his departure from On Gamers? So, for me, I gotta be honest, I'm hugely disappointed in the decision, by On Gamers to kind of part ways with Duncan, over something that to me seems really fucking trivial. It seems to be a combination of the tweets he made during the World Finals, which, as far as I could tell, I mean, first of all, okay, so people are saying that you shouldn't use the word retard. I mean, guys, really? Come on. I don't even think the most vicious critic of Thorin believes for a second that the word retard is inherent hate speech and crosses a fundamental line. There are words and phrases that are used on the internet that are part of our lexicon, which, they're substitutions for other words. And when you call something retarded, you're not saying they're mentally handicapped, you're saying it's stupid. Now, maybe that is insensitive if we apply it to a historical context. But it's everybody does it. Everybody uses that word. Like I'm a big believer in let he who is without sin cast the first stone. And the people who were gunning for Thorin's head, are the same people that sit in Twitch chat and spam ASCII penises and Hitler pictures. And I find it really disingenuous when a community, like I hate the way that the community is so quick to fake outrage just because they know doing so will get somebody penalized. And I really dislike that, and I think Thorin was a victim of that. So on top of that, it was also, he made all the front pages of all the subreddits because he stormed off that show, The Late Game. And, I gotta say that that show was a bit of a fucking, it was badly run. I mean, look, no disrespect to Lycan. He's a nice guy, and he's trying really hard to fill a void, and there is a void right now in the StarCraft community for that sort of content. But, we went on air, and he didn't even say we were live. I mean, that could have been a fucking nightmare for all of us, because I'm sure you guys understand things you say privately aren't meant for broadcast a lot of the time, the way you joke with friends. So any of us could have tripped up there and said something awful and been the next esports scandal. So that put everybody in a bad mood, I think, to begin with. And there was an undercurrent on the show. And then Thorin had said he'd rather not talk about those topics. And, of course, they were brought up. And, I'm partially responsible for bringing them up. And, I thought it would be a good opportunity for him to present his side. And I fully back him. He didn't say Reginald, looked like an ape. I have absolutely no idea why that myth has been, proliferated. He and the Poland thing. I mean, again, I think those comments were perhaps not particularly smart and perhaps showed, a degree of, I'm loath to use the word ignorance, but I think it definitely showed some insensitivity to Polish culture. But again, it was for me quite heavily blown out of proportion. He paid the price for it, and that probably should have been the end of it, really. But this was just like an opportunity for him to actually present his side and show himself in a more humane light. And the conversation just got derailed, and he got frustrated, and he stormed off the show. Now that for me isn't controversial at all. I've been on those shows, and I've sat there and I've thought, fuck this. Just fuck this. Like I'm being asked these questions. People are talking over me. No one's listening to what I say. The Twitch chat spam and abuse. What the fuck am I doing? What am I doing? Now, I'm too much of a gobshite. I like to express my opinion way too much to storm off a show if there's an opportunity for me to talk. But I've had moments on shows. You could look up the Unfiltered Last Christmas special, where I got really pissed off and chopsy, because people were criticizing me, and I was saying, what guys like Total Biscuit and Too Good do. It's very easy when you've got all these adoring fans that where you can do no wrong. And I kind of went insular. I didn't want to be on that show at that particular moment in time. So I didn't think it was that big a deal. A combination of all of those things together, even that isn't that big a deal. The vast majority of the things he tweeted during Worlds were actually rewordings of Sky Williams, tweet, things he'd said about Thorin, and Reginald and Loco Doco's tweets. It was, ironic. And people missed that because people do. And basically, a load of people, predominantly TSM fans, gunned for him. I don't know if it was a make-weight gesture. Like, I don't know if on-gamers were like, if we fire Thorin, we might get TSM back in the fold. I certainly hope that isn't true. But for me, you back your staff. And on-gamers are so strange because, you know, that they've let people get away with things that, you know, aren't particularly, you know, great behaviour. And then when it came to Duncan, who was one of their greatest assets, they really seem to have been, you know, like he got thrown under the bus. They did the same with one of my co-workers at the Daily Dot, William Turton. You know, he used a quote that he was asked not to use. And that's an honest mistake from a young journalist that hasn't had any training. They weren't training people at On Gamers. No one was taking the responsibility to say to the junior reporters, this is how you do things. No one was doing that. So when he made a mistake, what did they do? They put up a fucking big post and about how they've punished him and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like there's no need for that sort of public disclosure about how you discipline someone internally. And it haunts him now, you know. He can't shake that reputation. It really sucks because we haven't got many good young journalists coming through. So I think On Gamers, you know, could have handled that situation a lot better. I think they've cut off their nose to spite their face a little bit. You know, you lose all your best writing talent, and you've got the Reddit ban to contend with. You know, it's a, you know, you're fucking yourself twice. So yeah, that's what I think about that one anyway. So next question. Ajido, my beloved moderator and my biggest fan, it seems. He says, do you have a shortlist you could share potential co-host replacements for Josh if he ends up making it into the LCS? We're all pulling for you, hoping he fails miserably and stays forever, but just curious who you had in mind. So again, we haven't really thought about that. Like when me and Josh and, you know, Broken Shard all agreed to do the show together, it looked like Broken Shard was just going to be playing casually. You know, the Team Fusion thing was way off. Didn't look like it was going to happen. You know, that he would get into a genuine, you know, kind of side that could contend. And, you know, it's happened for him. So I'm super glad because Josh is a great guy. Like, he's an amazing guy. You know, solid player. And a great personality. I'd love to see him back in LCS. So, you know, I'm joking a little bit when I say I hope he fails. I wish him all the success. You know, whatever he wants to do with his life, you know, I fully support that. If he gets LCS and obviously can't commit to the show anymore, I think what we'll do is we'll look around the American Challenger scene and see who's available, who doesn't have the LCS commitments. I'd make Saint Vicious a very wealthy man if he would agree to come and do a show with me, because I just think he's somebody that I'd have a pretty decent chemistry with. You know, I think it's highly unlikely, but I'd certainly ask him and try to induce him to come on board because I think he's great. But, you know, there's other people as well. I mean, you know, why couldn't we get someone like Sky on, for example? Like, why does it need to be a player, maybe? We're not really aiming to be like a Summoning Insight where we do analysis, like heavy analysis of the games. And we want to be, you know, talking about transfer, you know, rumours and things that go on behind the scenes and trying to give a different type of insight, an insight to what it's like to be a professional and be part of the top end of the scene. So I think that's, you know, something that we could look at as well. You know, I'm good friends with Sky in a different universe. We're boyfriends and we live together and we're super happy together. But not on this planet. But we're a bromance that can never be. Forbidden love. It's kind of like Brokeback Mountain. But you know, I love him a bit. So if he wanted to do a show, if he had time, you know, yeah, why not him? You know, Alex Penn, guys like that are out there. You know, there's so many different options that I think what we would do is we would probably just say, like, if you want it, come and get it. And we'd probably maybe even do a run of shows where we had a guest host and just see which one clicked, who we had the best rapport with. But, you know, Josh is big shoes to fill. A lot of people say, oh, he doesn't talk that much. He's really quiet. And that's the exact thing that we need for the chemistry. You've got me, who's kind of the conductor. You've got Broken Shard, who's like the hyperactive, you know, kind of funny guy. And Josh is the guy who probably, he doesn't say a lot, but when he does, it's really pertinent and there's a real dry wit to it. And I think that chemistry really works as a whole. So I'd like to keep it together for a long time. Okay, next one. Let's have a look if there's anything in this. So Anti Derivatives asks me, how's the process when you get leak information? So, first thing I got to say with all of the leaks, because you guys know me for doing that kind of stuff. It's a bit of a snowballing process. So, when I first leaked the Super Team, the original Super Team, which didn't actually come to pass but was later proven, I got shit on by the community because I was new to kind of reporting leaked stories in League of Legends. And what I didn't realize was this wasn't like Counter-Strike, where if a move happened, it happened. You know, it wasn't, there was no buyouts to worry about. It was just, if 5 dudes wanted to play with each other and you knew that they were playing with each other, report it because they're going to be playing with each other. That was it. League of Legends ain't like that. So that was part of a learning curve for me. And I put out the Super Team story, which was, on the money. It was completely accurate. But of course, within 2-3 days, you quickly realised, JWoww wasn't going to be part of the team. And Wicked was, the backup plan to that. And when I said that, I got shit on again. And everyone was really shitting on me until Frogger made that vlog. And thank God he did. Because if he hadn't, I'd still be basically having to defend what I did to this day. But I also got to say as well... and this is, again, a bit of a tangential thing. But, I've got to say that the community has matured quite a lot since, I've started reporting in it. A lot of guys, when we first saw the leaks coming out, they were like, why are you reporting on this? Now, when they see a leak, they accept it, gets upvoted, generates discussion. And that's how real sports reporting works. And you guys are starting to, collectively... are starting to get that now. And that's great, because that's all I ever wanted to do, was basically kind of elevate the level of reporting in this particular game, which I do care about the game and the scene. But mainly just about, the level of reporting that we had in it, which was pretty poor. It was, everybody knew everything that was going on, and everyone was too scared to leak it, because they were worried they'd get ostracized and the community would hate them for it, it was like everyone got so upset with the Super Team because people were like, Froggen would never leave his bros behind. And it's like, guys, it don't work like that. It's this, you got a 3-4 year career. It's grab what you can while you can. And, a lot of the time, unfortunately, friendships be damned. And I think, it's quite a young audience, League of Legends. And a lot of people think it's like yippee skippy. We all play in the fucking treehouse together and we're best friends for life. And it ain't like that. This is a business. This is an industry. People got to get paid and people got to win things. People got to be the best. So people will do whatever they can to facilitate that. Friendship just means you're willing to give it like one last chance before you pull the trigger. Anyway, when I became the leak guy, when people realized that I was going to continue reporting in this way, and I started getting them right, what happened was people were like, well, this guy doesn't give a fuck. This guy's been shit on as much as any esports journalist I've ever seen, and he just keeps coming back and writing it, and the community hate him and they downvoted, and then he does an editorial and that makes things worse. But he's there the next day and he just puts out another leak and it's right. So what started happening was, my Skype blew up. I was getting Reddit messages and people started giving me the information. People were like, look, it was all getting a bit deep throat, like talking with voice scramblers. I can't tell you who I am, but this is going to happen, and, I can show you the paperwork, do a screen share right now, and things like this. And, I managed to really build up an incredible network of people that can get access to this information for me and for you guys, this is the real reason why I do it. You guys deserve to know what's going on with your teams, and as soon as possible. Sure, we can wait for the team to make an announcement, but, equally, you guys deserve to know. So it actually got easier as it went on, not harder. I thought it would be people wouldn't want to talk to me, but people do talk to me, and that's the key thing to leaks. Like, everybody talks. If it's happening, people know about it, and they tell people, and they know about it, and all you effectively have to do is just follow the chain what version of the information it is. Is it third hand, fourth hand? And you kind of follow the chain back to where it leads from, and that's how you verify it. You do that twice, and you've got a solid story. You know, you've got to be confident running that, even though I have no doubt that I'll get one wrong. Things are subject to change at the last minute. Like this Invictus Gaming situation. My sources are reliable. The guys I'm getting the information from are 100% records across the board. So if this doesn't turn out to be true, it'll be the first. But, it's going to happen on a long enough time scale. This is the nature of the beast. When you do this kind of reporting on embargoed news, sometimes there's going to be a last-minute juke or someone's going to have got cross wires. So yeah, basically, in terms of the mechanics as well, just to answer your question fully, when I hear the information, I reach out to other people in the network that I would expect to know and ask if they've heard anything. If they've heard something, I'll then run it up and maybe try and talk to a player in a team or a coach or someone who might have been scrimming against them. And eventually, when I hit a certain amount of testimony, people will say this is definitely happening. If everyone's stories align, then fuck it, it's true. So you go with it, you print it. Right, so let's come down here. So Kifia asks, before I ask, let me say that I understand that it is your job to report the news to the people, and most likely if you have more than two sources on something, you might not hesitate on publishing it, even if you are greeted with hate and from the community. So stuff that I just covered there. With that being said, do you recognise that some news you might put out, for example, future player swaps or negotiations between companies, will jeopardise those same negotiations? I don't know if I'm expressing this in the best way, but if something is in the works and you report it, if it breaks the deal or if it generates a massive backlash from the community, do you still stand by your decision of publishing it? Well, okay, so I can give you an actual example with this, Kifia, and it's a great question, and thanks a lot for asking it. The Super Hot Crew story. So we heard that they were moving to MYM. We got linked to all the sort of incidental evidence, the manager having changed his LinkedIn and his reappearance on the MYM website. And obviously he'd been with MYM for a year. And knew all the guys and had stayed in contact. We went to Team Acer. They confirmed that they were going. And, they told me everything about it. Got quotes. They went on the record, which was great, because usually people criticize me for using anonymous sources. Published it. And then I got a message from the MYM guys that, I reached out to them at the time and they didn't get back to me. And then they got back to me and they were like, this reporting could actually cost us the deal. Now, I don't believe that. I'm not. It seems ridiculous that that would happen. But if it does happen, then that speaks to the that speaks to the organization. That speaks to really poor, planning. Like what, there's nothing I can do about it, I've got an obligation to report facts to my readers. That's my job. Those facts might be wonderful news, they might be terrible news, but it'll always be factual. And when you have that obligation, I can't be worried about, someone might lose their job over this. Think about it, There was, and it's not like I try and be an asshole, for example, I can tell you a story about a time I got told about a manager that had taken some money from an organization and was going to run away with it, and I had the story there, and it would have been big traffic, and I, instead of printing it, I knew the manager, and I called them, and I talked them out of it, and made them give the money back, and no story for Richard. And I don't know if that's the ethical thing to do from a journalist perspective. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I should have just wrote it up. But it was the right thing to do for the organisation, for the players whose money it was, and actually for the guy who had a moment of weakness and and took the money and was wavering, because if that gets printed, that's going to fuck up all his future career employment prospects in and out of esports. So I try and gauge every situation individually and really think about the consequences. But ultimately, 99 times out of 100, the way I'm going to go is my readers want to read what I write. They want to know the truth. I'm the guy who's going to deliver it to them. And unfortunately, if a byproduct of that is that someone's contract gets cancelled or someone doesn't get that dream move to the team that they want, I got to say, fuck it. I'm sorry. This is how it works, So, and I liked how there was a no one cares just randomly on there. Okay, so Pringle Ninja asks, what inspired you to start First Blood? So actually, the starting of First Blood, we owe it to Broken Shard. Wouldn't have happened without him. He basically. So I jokingly said on Twitter, like, I think I might start my own League of Legends show, like, and it was literally a joke, It was just a bit of fun, because like I had no intention of it, I don't believe I've necessarily got the credibility in a lot of ways. Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense for a Monte Cristo to do it. It makes sense for Thorin to do it. Thorin's always had a gift of being able to retain vast amounts of information and hold it in his head. And he is, it's no exaggeration, everybody calls him the encyclopedia of esports. That's his gift. More so than his ability to write, it's his ability to collate. And he's hugely important to esports as a whole, because he's realistically the only thing we've got that comes close to a historian. So those guys have got the credibility. I didn't believe I do. What I do, it's not necessarily even game specific. I break embargo stories across all games and always have. I've been known for it. So it was kind of like, I just jokingly put it out there. And Broken Shard hit me up, and he said, fuck it, we'll do it together. And I was like, yeah, get fucked. And he was like, no, I really want to do a show with you. So I was like, why, dude? I'm just some crusty old journalist. You're a player, like you got options out there. And he was just like, I just really want to fucking do it. So he twisted my arm, and then this runs on to the next question that Pringle Ninja asks, which is, how did you go about picking up Nintendo and Broken Shard? So he suggested Josh, and he put me in touch with him, and we had talks, and I was like, holy shit, this guy is like so fucking cool. Like, we get along, like, just immediately it clicked. And I was like, you know what? Actually, this could work. And it's, I think we've had some rusty moments. Like, we're still finding our rhythm. There's a couple of moments on last week's show I wasn't particularly happy with. I think we need to get a bit more disciplined about, making sure there's like no background noise. We get into our right space. We need to kind of find the flow and the tone of the show, because that show really veered between being super serious 1 minute and then here's Broken Shard falling through a table the next minute, and that's my fault. But it's going to take us a while to really settle in and find out what the show wants to be. We're still trying to test out all different types of ideas, but ultimately I just made a throwaway remark, and Broken Shard pushed me and spurred me on to do it, and he really motivated me and encouraged me to make it work. So all credit to him. If you guys are enjoying the show when you watch it, he's the dude who made it happen. I went out and got the title sequences done and everything else, but he was the heart of the show. He was the reason it came together. See if there's any more good questions from you, Pringle Ninja. Oh, the first caller on Trash Talk, yeah. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. It's like Zia Hao or something. But yeah, we'll try and get him on more. But again, talk radio. If anyone ever used to listen to talk radio, I grew up in the 80s. I used to listen to it as a kid. It was always something I was really passionate about. Basically, you would know that, you would get regulars who would call in all the time, and the DJ would know them. And sometimes they'd be nutters, and sometimes they'd just be awesome dudes. And I'm sure we'll get those both as the show goes on. So, right, I think at this juncture, I'll throw out one of those Evolve Alpha keys into the Twitch chat. So, just going to copy paste it. I advise if you want to get lucky and, get it, what you should do is have your Steam Activate window open and go ham, because I'm about to paste it. So, 1, 2, 3. There we go. So that's a alpha key for the new game Evolve. And you can get that. I'll give another one away just before we cut to the break at half time. So, right, back to the questions. And again, 1,500 of you just come and watch me ramble on. Thanks a lot for tuning in. And someone just subbed, I think, as well. I want to say about that, actually. There's a guy who is really donating lots of money out there, and I'm super touched. And we got like 35 subs for the last show, and I just want you guys to know, I say it all the time, I don't need the money. I don't want to take your money, because you guys are like, probably I would wager younger than me, and you're going to be entering into a very interesting phase of your lives where that money might come in handy. And not just that, there's like really good causes. Like I say, I've got Doctors Without Borders, a link on my Twitch channel, which again, if you want to donate to me, just saying, you could donate to them instead. That'd be awesome. And I think when we get past this Ebola crisis, and they're a little bit under less duress, because they're the organisation that are out there on the front lines in Africa, where it's, countries are ravaged by this Ebola problem, and they're the front line of defence. I think when that situation improves, and I know it will, obviously we're trialing a vaccine. We've got some ready to go out, and we think it'll be out in Africa by end of November, I think it is. But I obviously, another charity that I'm really passionate about is Amnesty International, upholding human rights the world over. I've been involved in some of their campaigns before, and I'll definitely get a link to them up, but for now I think we need to focus on Ebola. So I'm just saying, like, you guys are awesome. Honestly, it means a lot to me that anyone would give me money for doing anything that I do, and I get paid for it anyway. But just if you can afford it, you can do something profoundly good with it. That is better than buying me some tea bags or whatever. So, anyway, next question. As a veteran of the esports scene, what has been your favourite game to cover and why? And that's from Mortkin, who asks that. So, right. Favourite game to cover and why? Now, I never used to watch the game, but Call of Duty 4 on the PC was the best scene. Hands down. Hands down. When I went and started covering them, I was predominantly thought of as a Counter-Strike journalist. And obviously there's a rivalry between the two franchises. So I was expecting to get shit on quite badly, actually, by that community. And instead, I covered an event. They welcomed me with open arms. Everyone at Tech9 were like, this is the best sort of stuff we read about Call of Duty. Please stay in our game. And I met people who were genuinely touched by that, that eccentricity that made esports an interesting subculture for me to work in. And, I'm talking about guys like Kyochi, from Fnatic. I'm talking about guys like Diablo. I'm talking about guys like Duffer. I'm talking about guys like Trigger, Lighters, Big Danny, Soklon, Vasquez, the fucking gent. I mean, I'm missing out so many people. I know that. Miracle, Big Miracle, Climax. I mean, just these guys were just absolutely phenomenal personalities. Like, they were just great people to be around. They were crazy. They used to drink, take drugs, bar fights, fist fights, party animals, but they were also touched with this, like, they all seem to be really intelligent guys, but just intelligent but wild with it, It's like they knew how to behave, but they would purposely choose to misbehave because it was more fun. So every time you went to a Call of Duty event, the shit that you would see and the shit that you would get involved in was just unbelievable. The only time I've ever missed a plane was because I was so wrecked at a Call of Duty event. The only time I've ever seen... okay, so here's the story. Oh, God. Yeah, right. This is why it was the best. So... there's a guy called Trigger. You can look him up. Incredible player, super talented, and he joined Reason Gaming, and they were all like British loutish, big drinkers. Like to sort of party and stuff. Now anyway, they were drinking one night after a tournament, and it was the first tournament they'd played with this new player, Trig, and they were getting hammered and stuff, and fucking. Trigger was drunk and he was messing around. So Duffer, for a laugh, put his hand down his boxers, and it was in a real sweaty nightclub. So you can imagine what was going on. He kept his hand down there for ages and was really having a good scratch. And then he put his hand on Trigger's face, and Trigger was drunk, so he hadn't seen him with his hand down his boxers. So he leaned in and sucked his fingers like a joke, like seductive. Trying to be seductive, and we were all like, oh my God. And then as he got to the knuckles, the taste must have kicked in, and he just was instantly retching and being sick violently everywhere. So he's oh God. So he's just throwing up in a corner, and Duffer's pissing himself laughing. We're all, I'm fucking buckled. I'm absolutely buckled with laughter. But Trigger, after he stops being sick, he gets up and he's angry. So he storms towards Duffer, and I'm thinking, I don't know how serious this is. Is this going to be a fight? So as he does that, Duffer just quickly gets a shot of Sambuca, puts it in his mouth, and as Trigger gets in to sort of push him, just spits Sambuca in his eyes. So now he's blind as fuck, and Duffer just runs out of the club and just leaves him there. So the shit that used to go on at these events, that's the same team that had a gun pulled on them out in Croatia. Motherfucker. These guys were wild. And, I got invited to be part of that intimate circle of people who were involved in the wildness. I was deemed trustworthy. Even though I was a journalist, they involved me in a lot of the madness, and it was great. So that was why that was the best game. And I miss all of those guys. I love all of those guys dearly. We're all grown up now. We're all a little bit older, but we had some fucking good times. I'll think about some of the laughs that I had covering those events, when I'm an old man, even older. So, another question from Mortkin. He says, what is your current relationship with Thorin like? It seems like you are on good terms, but as far as I remember, it wasn't always that way. Could you explain what happened between you and Thorin in the past? So, me and Duncan, it's a huge misconception. I get called out about it all the time, about how I suck his dick, close quotes. And it's, the way Duncan always described it is that real knows real. That's what he always says. And it's true. We haven't always seen eye to eye. That's a fucking understatement. But I've always respected his forthright views, even when I disagree with those views. I admire his bravery in expressing those views in a community that is quick to tear anyone down for having opinions that differ from their own. And I think most of all, I admire the fact that he is, still here, resolute. The thing that I admire the most in esports is the tenaciousness, the longevity, the ability to weather the storm and still be here. And he's been doing this longer than me, and it didn't pay. It wasn't lucrative up until very recently for him, and that's a goddamn tragedy. So anyway, what happened with us was, I think we'd always had snipes at each other. I was very immature in a lot of ways, because what I quickly realized about esports culture was it was such a small industry that if anyone was successful, people's perception was they were eating into your potential success. Like, the pie was so small that if someone come along and gobbled even just 2 bites of it, you were going to go hungry. So everybody in esports used to fucking dig each other out. All the time. If somebody wrote an article and you were a journalist and they wrote an article that, had any flaws in it whatsoever, you would take to social media or you would badmouth them and you would just be like, this is a piece of shit. The advent of Twitter was and Reddit were kind of terrible things for esports because it really gave us avenues to criticize each other and fire salvos. And we used to do it all the time because people were terrified that if, one person's success meant somebody else's failure by definition, by proxy, So I think me and Duncan had snipes at each other that were petty and stupid. I totally am embarrassed by them and I regret them. And then I wrote an article about StarCraft, and Duncan's a huge Brood War enthusiast. I was covering the Savior thing, and what I was trying to do was write basically not an idiot's guide, but a very broad and general overview about what the Savior match-fixing scandal meant for StarCraft, what it meant for the future of StarCraft. And included in that was a history of how StarCraft got started. It was about 6,000 words, I think, in total, and maybe even more. And everyone really liked the article because it was, it was good. It was written well from a linguistic point of view. It covered all of the bases, and it was something very new on Cadred. We never even mentioned Brood War before, and we were predominantly Counter-Strike side. So when so everyone was tweeting, and it was something like, Richard Lewis's fantastic piece about Savior, and it was just a reiteration of what had happened, put in simple terms. And Thorin tweeted something like, washed-up Counter-Strike journalist finds Google. And basically that's how he summarised my article. Now, that's kind of funny looking back. That I shouldn't have got as upset as I did, but I went fucking deep. I went ham, and I said some shit that I'm absolutely ashamed of. Absolutely ashamed of. And yeah, I shouldn't have said it. Really regret it. And it made things really difficult for a time between us because I'd crossed the line, but we met up at an event, and I was like, "Look, dude, I'm deeply sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. I shouldn't have said that shit." And he basically said, that's cool. And we talked about things, and we managed to reconcile the differences, and we realized actually, we shouldn't be against each other. We should be friends. And since then, okay, so to give you an example, a lot of people don't know I almost worked for On Gamers. I came this close. But one of the reasons I didn't get it was that the editors there, Kim Rom and a guy called Hunter Lee, they wanted to hire me, but they only wanted to do it if the other writers wanted me on board. And they came back to me and said, sorry, they don't want to work with you. Guys like Slasher Travis and whoever else. They just said, they don't think you'll fit in, that you'll be part of a team. And I was like, well, look, it's not like I got a room with these motherfuckers. I don't have to bunk with them. We're not going to be housemates. We don't even work in an office together. So it really seemed strange to me. And I asked Duncan about it, and he told me to my face. He said, yeah, I said no. And here's why. And he explained his point of view. And I totally understood it. And I respected him for being the only one out of that group who was up front and said, yeah, I said no. So we have a relationship that is best described as one of absolute mutual respect. We're not always going to agree. We're not always going to come rushing to each other's aid. And we're not always going to do things that benefit the other one. But I couldn't imagine esports without Thorin, and I hope that never happens. And I hope he feels something similar for me. So I think that's where we're at. Right, let's see what else. Again, Mortkin, how often do you personally go to events such as IEM All-Stars or Worlds? I remember in the past you used to go to a fair a fair few, but is it still the same? So one of the great things about being at the Daily Dot, dude, is like I don't have to fucking go to events. It's not that I don't like events, but for years I was doing an event every other weekend. You know, when you're running like 15, 20 events a year, it's just like fucking fuck this. You know, it's great to see the people, but it's a weekend away from, you know, my girlfriend. It's a weekend away from my friends. It's a weekend of flying, which sucks. You get no sleep at these events, especially when you're doing coverage, because you've got to be up when the tournament starts, and you've got to be, you know, you can't go to bed until the tournament ends. So it's not even players don't necessarily have to do that. So you're just stuck with no fucking sleep. You know, I used to go to these things. I used to get 4 or 5 hours sleep, and then everyone would be like, "Oh, hey, Richard, come for a drink." So then you'd go and do that, and then you'd be rocking 4 or 5 hours sleep with a hangover, and then you'd be like, "Right, I'm not drinking tonight." So then, but you're recovering, and you don't get any sleep the second day, and then by the end, you're just a physical wreck. Your voice is fucked because you've been doing, you know, 20, 25 hours of interviews, constantly talking, having to shout over all the background noise, and you're just a mess. And it was horrible. So then you come home and it's like, "Hey, baby," to the girlfriend, and you're a fucking wreck. You go straight to bed. You know, you don't see it till Tuesday. You're just ruined. And even then, you're just a shell of yourself. And then Friday comes round and you're back on the road. So it was lame. You know, I really didn't like it. It's great to be made a guest at events. There's some events I'll always want to go to, like Home Story Cup and IEM and things like that. But, you know, for me, I can take or leave them, really. You know, I've been doing it for 10 years. I've been to the biggest events out there. You know, I haven't done an international. I haven't done a League of Legends World Final, but pretty much everything else. And, you know, I've kind of grown out of it. The magic, you know, isn't there. It's just business for me. So anyway, let's see. Next question. Okay, so CS Dragon says, "Why do you never cite your sources?" Which he spelt the word "cite" wrong. Your English teacher would cry at the amount of anonymous sources you would use. You use. So first thing, CS Dragon, my English teacher wouldn't cry about it because it would be irrelevant to an English tutor's kind of remit. If my journalism lecturer might not have enjoyed it, but they say, you know, they would say they would encourage me to move somebody onto the record. But if you can't, what do? Do I say, "Well, sorry, dude, I know I said I'd preserve your anonymity, but CS Dragon in the community says that my use of anonymous sources makes me look like I'm a jackass, so I got to throw you under the bus. Sorry, dude. Thanks for sharing the information." You know, you don't just fuck that one person over, and that's completely ethically wrong. They're never going to come back and give you another story. And not only that, all the other people that give you information are going to be thinking, "Well, if he does it to them, why isn't he going to do it to me?" So the problem we've got in esports is it's a really, really small industry, and it's actually really easy for somebody to fuck over somebody else if they do something they don't like. If you're giving information away about like a manager or about Riot or about, you know, a sponsor or anybody, right, or even another player, okay, if you're doing that, you're potentially, if they know it's you, you're limiting your possibilities, your potential, earnings, your potential employment in the future. So that's why you have to protect the source, because there's serious ramifications. This is a small industry. Everyone knows everyone else. This is, one of the fundamentals. It's not like, these people aren't going to be recognized where I'm getting the information from. They would be. If they're known as a leaker, no organization's going to hire them because they'll be worried that they're going to leak shit to me. So what you need to look at is, does the stuff that I print, is it right? Is it factual? Yes. So, sorry, there's not a name on the sources, but the important thing is that the information gets out there. I agree, it's not ideal to use anonymous sources, as often. I wish we didn't have to, but this is the nature of the beast. And if you look at sports reporting, it's exactly the same. So, As if Josh has said, was there any reason why you turned to myself and Broken Shard as co-host? Were we your first choices? Yes, absolutely. You were, Josh. I love you. What do I think of Cloud9 as an esports organisation? It seems like they've grown very quickly and has made successful teams for most of the games in a span of only 2 years. How big are they compared with other successful organisations, and will Cloud9 rival their success? And that's from Meteos Boyfriend. Wishful thinking there, I think. So I love Cloud9. Jack, the guy who runs Cloud9, is one of the smartest guys in esports. Has took gambles and risks that probably shouldn't have worked, and has made it work. They've got a great brand. It's a great name. The logo's simple but effective. They're all well drilled in how to operate with the media. Their talent scouting is perhaps not peerless, but certainly right up there in terms of the organizations. And they are great people to work with, in my experience. I know Thorin hasn't always found that. I think if that's true, that's a shame. But I've always enjoyed working with them. I've interviewed Meteos. He's super professional, super nice. One of the iconic players in NA, really humble, down to earth. Jack always makes time for me whenever I, want to do some work with them. They're just very mature, adult, professional, all the things that you want your esports organizations to be. And from what I can tell, no backdoor shenanigans. They're not out there trying to fuck over their rivals. They're not out there trying to fuck over other organizations. They're not out there trying to control esports. They literally are just, again, like I say, just really professional. So I love them a bit. So I wish them every bit of success. All right. Next. Oh, this is an interesting one. Sir JDog21 asks, with teams automatically dismissing people just because they fought a long time ago in solo queue games with a member of that team, how long do you think it's going to take for organizations to say enough is enough and just go after the best person for the job? So this is where management has to really step in, and it's very hard to mitigate this, because if you've got a vision for a team and you think this player's the best, and then another player on the team says, I can't play with him because he called me a name in solo queue, you need to gauge whether you can handle the player who's got the problem in such a way and frame the move with him as it's for the greater good, and they're going to be able to come in and have chemistry, because chemistry is hugely important. And if one player's got a secret axe to grind against another player, human nature dictates that the team is going to fail. So it's all well and good organizations saying you need to go after the best person for the job, but the reality is, and any sports manager will tell you this, any esports manager will tell you this, any coach can tell you this, sometimes the best person for the job isn't the best person for the job, because personalities and chemistry are so vitally important to the success of any team. So I would like to see managers get a bit more hands-on and not let players dictate quite so much who's on the roster. But there's a reason why that culture happens in esports, and that's primarily because chemistry is so important. Okay. Hydrogensa. I see him a lot. He actually, one of the great things about this guy is I'm pretty sure he used to hate my guts. But now he's always in my thread saying nice things about me. So it's nice to win over a hater. He says, what do you hate more? The usage of the word toxic in this subreddit, or the usage of the word professionalism? Really fucking hard question. Really hard. As I gotta tell you straight off the fucking top, man, that both are disgusting. Like, so toxicity is just, again, I've said it a million times, it's a little buzzword, it's borderline cultish. It's just to explain away anything that you don't like in solo queue. Someone criticizes you making a shit play, don't be toxic because then I'll go on tilt. Get fucked. Grow a skin, realize you fucked up, and realize people have a right to tell you and point out that you fucked up when you fuck up. Fact. I'm not even interested in hearing any counter arguments to that. It's just a fact of life that if you do something in a team environment and you do it poorly, the other people on the team aren't necessarily going to be all sunshine and rainbows about how you're potentially harming their success through your, poor judgment. This is real life. It's not going to fucking happen like that. So, yeah, the idea that you're being toxic if you criticize people, toxicity is easily fixed if it's the verbal kind, you just mute them and you play. That's it. Like, there's not even any great discussion about it. I just hate this idea that if someone gets frustrated with somebody else, they've got the problem. I don't buy that. I don't think that's legitimate. I think there's ways to maybe express that frustration. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. But the idea that you're, like, toxic, like something that needs to be removed, something that's dangerous, something that's going to poison everything around you, bullshit. It's just an excuse, actually, a lot of the time. The amount of time I see people say, oh, if you flame, we will lose. It's like, bullshit, dude. I've played in teams where everyone's flamed each other and absolutely rolled over. I've played in teams where everyone's nice and genuinely trying to have that, teamwork OP, mythological experience that maybe happens one every 500 fucking solo queue games, and lost them just as heavily as the stomps with the flamers. So I despise and loathe the word toxicity. It's become a catch-all term to basically shun people expressing criticism. And when you shut down criticism, that's bad. There's no two ways about it. That's a bad thing. Criticism is necessary. But all of that said, I gotta say, professionalism. When people call somebody else unprofessional, my God, it boils my piss. It absolutely boils my piss. Because, right, for me, professional is, I get up, I wake up, and I fucking live this job. I live esports. I get up, first thing I do, I go through my work emails, I fucking, start chasing up stories and leads, respond to all of my Skype, all of my PMs. It's all consuming for me. I'm never off the clock. Like, look how I'm spending my weekend. I'm here doing an AMA for you guys because I fucking give a fuck. It's that simple. This, to me, is being professional. Being professional is doing your job to the best of your ability and sometimes going a bit above and beyond what you should be doing for that job. Doing it with a high degree of competency, which, I don't think it's egotistical of me to say that I do. Being professional isn't walking around with a shit-eating grin on your face when people are abusing you verbally and telling you to kill yourself. Well, I'm sorry that you think that, but have a nice day anyway. That's not professionalism. That's falseness. That's saccharine bullshit. That's got nothing to do with professionalism at all. It's some awful Americanism where the word, again, it just got subverted to mean something it doesn't mean. It's like, being professional is not putting up with bullshit and asking for more. It's being professional is doing your fucking job and caring about it and caring about doing it well. So when I see people calling someone else unprofessional, it's bullshit. Most of the time, they're not unprofessional at all. How can you say Thorin's unprofessional? This dude goes to events, sometimes out of his own pocket, by the way, takes a camera with him. You never see him boozing and schmoozing down the bar. He's fucking filming a Reflections or, or a Grilled or whatever, right? Always doing it, just does it off his own bat, doesn't need anyone to tell him to do it. He goes home, he sits on the footage and releases it on a, daily basis. In the meantime, he's written another 10,000 word article about the history of CLG or something, and he pumps out 2-3 of those a week. This guy works his nuts off, and people say he's unprofessional. Why? Because he tweeted some mean things. People need to fucking realign their priorities about what's important from the people that do things, And you can't call somebody who works that hard unprofessional at all. So, there you go. Right, we've come at 9 o'clock. That's the first hour of the AMA out of the way. We've only really scratched the surface. I'm sorry, I thought this would be a quick way to do things, but really hasn't worked out like that. What we'll do now is we'll give away another Evolve Alpha key in the chat. Just going to paste it out there. So if you want to get this key, I recommend that you open your Steam window and you get the activate a key thing, and you paste it in there. So, boom. Another Evolve Steam key is out there for you guys. So that's for alpha access to Evolve. It's there. It's just above Prowness, who is proclaiming to be Baron von Donger. So there we go. Right. And people are saying I'm wrong about Thorin. Guys, it's an AMA. It's ask me anything. Not ask me anything, but then have me say what you guys want me to say. It's my fucking opinion. Yeah, I can't be wrong about my opinion. Right? So, sorry. But if we disagree, we disagree, dude. That's just it. That's my opinion about professionalism. That was the question. Anyway, that said, I want to thank you all 1,800 of you, for being in the chat. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to throw some ads at you, so get your ad block deflectors up. And I'll be back in about 3 minutes with another cup of tea as I try and eat into this hangover as best as I can. So I'm trying to do it nice and smooth. I don't know how guys do this. Streamers have got it hard, bros. You need so many windows open just to do shit. It's like the worst. Okay, here we go. So yeah, ads gonna be running now. See you in 3 minutes. Okay, chaps, we're back. I'm fucking quite glad to be doing an AMA actually, because I just went out there and my girlfriend's listening to Sean Paul, so it's better in here, guys. So it's really good. Okay, so back to the AMA. Right. Answered that one. Gunther's got funk. So what's it like looking like a goblin ball sack? You know, it was always going to go that way, I think. There was probably a period of time where I was an okay looking human being, but age and just bodily abuse has just took over, and yeah, I'm fine. I had a blast. The last 10, 15 years have been awesome, so fuck it. I'm content to look like this. Is this a joke? Truth or Dares asks, will there ever be a day where you don't take things personally and feel the need to respond to trolls on Reddit or social media? I enjoy your articles and your information, but damn, you seem so petty in topics around here. Okay, so here's the problem I've got, alright? Like, we editorial and opinion pieces are like such a valid form of fucking journalism. They've been around for so fucking long, and yet we have virtually no one writing any of them in esports, because every time somebody does, the community shits all over them and go, oh my god, like, you're expressing an opinion. This is so unprofessional. How dare you do this? This is just your opinion. This isn't news. And it's just like, every time I see that type of post, I am going to reply to it, and I'm going to say, this is how op-eds work, this is, what you're saying is wrong. That's how it's going to, that's how it's going to be. And I'm always going to do that, because if you don't challenge ignorance and stupidity, you allow it to foster and you allow it to spread. And I don't want it to do those things. I want it to fucking... I want us to get to a level where we all understand that actually the expressing of opinions is good for a scene. The expression of opinions leads to the evolution of ideas. The evolution of ideas leads to doing things in better ways, more interesting ways. And we shut down journalists and personalities and everyone else from having opinions. And it's bullshit. We shouldn't operate like that, and I'm proud actually to challenge it. I don't give a fuck. It makes me look like a petty dick, and I get downvoted, and everyone says I'm an asshole, and I'll never read an article by you again. Yeah, well, good luck reading, about roster swaps to anywhere else. I mean, they're lying. No one's even going to boycott your content because it costs them nothing, and they just consume it. So fuck you. You don't get an opinion, unfortunately, about how I choose to behave or what battles I elect to fight or what I'm passionate about and what's important to me. You can tell me how to maybe do a show a little bit better. You can tell me how I could have wrote a sentence a little bit better. You can even call me an asshole, and you can choose to turn me off and not watch my stuff. But what you don't get to do is tell me, don't do this, don't do that. Like, it's incredibly important that people challenge that negative behavior. Incredibly important. And you might not realize it, but it is. And the other thing, there's a massive misconception that I react to every piece of negative criticism in a thread. Not true. I see loads of people say, oh, this is garbage, this wouldn't even make a high school newspaper, all of this gibberish. And we'll never reply to those types of posts, because whatever, man, it's your fucking opinion, you're entitled to your opinion. But what I will reply to is the ignorance, where people say, like, didn't Richard Lewis one time get married to a horse on Jerry Springer? Why should I listen to anything he's got to say? And then, when I see that, I'm gonna fucking go, actually, I didn't get married to a fucking horse on Jerry Springer. Get your fucking facts straight before you fucking slander me publicly. And people go, oh man, you react to criticism. I'm not reacting to criticism. I'm reacting to people stating patently false things about me. And that does boil my piss, because everyone holds me up to this fucking, on this pedestal about how everything I say has got to be measured and marshalled and accurate. Yet the people who put me on that pedestal and make me live up to that standard are the same people that will say, without a fucking trace of irony, false things about me. So yeah, it fucking annoys me. And no, I'm not gonna stop reacting to it. If people stop talking, if people stop saying falsehoods about A, the nature of journalism, and B, about me personally, then yeah, fuck it, there's no reason for me to reply at all. But people don't seem to be able to help themselves, because this is what we like to do. We like to scrutinize our celebrities and pick away at them and magnify every little mistake and every facet of their behavior. And this is why esports can be a really unpleasant industry to work in sometimes. And yes, piss was boiled. Right, next. No question. Okay. Favorite beer? From Judge JBS, who also says lots of nasty shit talking about me in a lot of threads. Very strange to ask a question. I'd recommend Brewdog's Punk IPA. I love it. It's a nice, strong, robust beer with a very floral finish, unique taste. I'm a real big fan of it. It's that or Longhorn IPA is really nice as well. So either one of those two would be my favourite beers. Console gaming, Larry David. Korean. Yeah. God, there's some pretty lame questions here. Right, okay, here we go. So, youngest Wigan. Now, I know lots of people ask questions that were very similar to this, so I will use yours as a platform to talk about it. Hey Richard, lots of esports enthusiasts are interested in breaking into the scene in one way or another and putting their skills into developing the industry. However, this is notoriously difficult due to the lack of moderated channels for contacting management of various organisations. What would you recommend these people do? So I'm going to use this youngest Wigan as an opportunity to basically talk about breaking into the industry and how you can do it. And it's not going to make for pleasant listening, all right? Because it's not... This isn't a road you necessarily want to go down. If you were to ask me, would I recommend it to anybody? I don't. Right now, it's still not ready as a career path. You get luck. You work hard and you get lucky, and that's it. And you just have to weather the storm until everything clicks. I've been doing it 10 years. Now all of a sudden, I'm popular. Now all of a sudden, people want to, partner with me. On YouTube. Now all of a sudden streaming platforms want to offer me money to stream. Now 10 fucking years. So the fucking tale of heartbreak and woe in between that is brutal. It's fucking brutal. So let's talk about breaking in. The absolute first thing you've got to do, I think, and this is essential, is you've got to be in a position where having a job is not essential to you. As in, you're a student, or you have money saved, or you're doing a gap year, or just something. Because what you'll quickly find is if you try and work a full-time job and then you come home and you want to do something in esports, you're working 2 full-time jobs. And you will burn the fuck out. This happens to so many people that are like, oh, it's okay. I got my 9 till 5, and then I come home at 5, and I log on and I run my gaming organisation. And then at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, I stop that. I go to bed, and then all weekend they're on the esports trail. You can't do it. Physically, you will just die. And one of the reasons why people fucking, don't stick esports for very long is that they absolutely burn themselves the fuck out. So if you're serious about getting into esports, the first thing I would say is, do whatever you need to do. If you're passionate about it and you can you can reconcile it in your brain, fucking run up credit card debt. Do whatever you have to do. If you're willing to put like a year in and see how far you can get. And trust me, that won't be very fucking far. Because if you're brand new to the industry and you don't have a particular set of skills to, quote, taken, you are going to struggle. You're going to volunteer, you're going to be scraping at the bottom of the barrel where everyone else who can't play the game at a particularly high level but somehow want to get involved and make a living out of this are going to be down there. You've got unscrupulous organizations that are going to take volunteer workers, milk you dry for the promise of a job that's never going to materialize. And people still say, actually, volunteering is, the lifeblood of the industry. You've got to start there. You've got to give away your labor for free. And a lot of the people that you're doing it for, they can't even educate you. You're not even learning a skill. You're not even learning a trade. Like, I hate volunteer culture, but I've been a beneficiary of it, and I've had to use it at websites I've worked at. But I prided myself on being, right, I'm qualified, I'm a fully qualified journalist. I can teach these people something useful. I can develop them. I can spend time. So at least when they leave or get a better offer or quit, they can say it wasn't a complete fucking waste of their time. But that's still not good enough. But I pride myself on the number of careers I've launched in this industry. And people can fucking, again, they can say I'm an asshole or whatever. And I won't name drop, but I've got people jobs at big companies. I got people jobs at other publications. The guy who's now the assistant editor at Esports Heaven, he was a guy who reached out to me through Reddit. Simple as that. Like, if you're good enough and you want it enough, I'll bend over backwards to help you fucking get somewhere and put you there. And I wish more people in the industry did that and used their influence in that way. Rather, what happens is you volunteer. So let's talk about that process. Let's say you want to be a writer. The funny thing about that is it's super easy to get a writing spot. Every website needs content. It's the lifeblood of a website. They don't even really care about quality control. They just want, clicks a lot of the time. And if you like, hey, I can write, here's something that I wrote, you'll probably get a shot at a website. Maybe it might be something fairly prestigious, it might be something absolute bullshit with 50 readers, but you'll be able to use that to sort of build up a set of clippings, some example work. But you'll get it, no problem. It's what you then do when you've got it. A lot of people get it and they're like, fuck, man, I got the job writing at the website. This is awesome. Everyone's going to recognize me now on the internet. Everyone's going to love my work. And then you write your first piece and no fucker reads it. No comments. Then you write your second piece and no fucker reads it. One comment, good read. The classic 2 words vote of approval. Then you write your third piece. No fucker reads it. TLDR. Only comment on it. And you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And, you're trying to find a career path for yourself, and there's nothing mapped out. Like, you're thinking to yourself, how long do I need to do this for before I get to do something cooler? Why in the community don't recognize you? A lot of the time, if you write anything vaguely contentious or slightly incorrect, you're going to get absolutely shit on, and you reset your entire career anyway. You go back to fucking square one. So most people give up at that stage. They just, bam, they're out. Fuck it. It's not worth it, actually. I'll try something else. I'll play another game. Rinse, repeat, right? That's what happens. Let's say you're one of the volunteers who toughs it out. Let's say you're good. So then what happens is, you usually, more often than not, you need to be the guy who reaches out to everybody else. So no one's going to come and offer you a job in esports. Like, you've got to be super high profile to even get that. I mean, ridiculously. It's not commensurate to how it should work. And even the jobs you get, I mean, like, I get offered jobs now. It's like they don't realize what I do or how well paid I am. I had about 2 months ago, a gaming organization add me. And they were like, do you want to be our editor-in-chief for the website? And I'm like, kind of right for the Daily Dot, you know, it's pretty big. 17 million unique readers a month and growing. It's kind of a big deal, like to me at least. What would I get out of it? I said, like, you know, just to fucking play along with it. And they're like, oh, well, we think, you know, we can send you merchandise and send you to DreamHack. It's like, are you fucking serious? I work at DreamHack, first of all. Second of all, I'm a grown fucking man. You know, I can't live on your merchant. You know, what are these people thinking? And that, you know, the idea that somebody in my experience gets an offer like that and like, what? Whoa. How much merchandise? You know, come the fuck on. So God knows what fledgling people are getting in this industry, like genuine up and comers. You know, the offers must be absolute fucking garbage. So, yeah, ridiculous. So, no one's going to come and give you a job, and if they do offer you a job, it won't even be a job. It'll just be, you know, it'll be bullshit. It'll be, you know, more smoke and mirrors. But you need to sell yourself. You've got to reach out to people. You've got to say, look at my work. Look at my fucking... you know, look at what I've done. Look at the traffic I have generated for this website. And this is another problem, okay? What writers need to present themselves as a valuable asset to an organization is you need to be able to prove that your shit generates clicks, okay? How can you do that? Because ain't no manager going to give you access to the analytics page. No. Not in esports. Those numbers are top secret because everybody lies about their numbers. Everybody lies about, you know, how much web traffic they get. They lie to their fucking sponsors. They lie to the people. They fudge the reports. They fudge their end-of-year deck. Everybody lies about the numbers. And that's why transparency is so fucking... It's like the terrifying prospect. Like, oh my God, what if somebody really knew that we told them we got 1 million, but we only got, you know, 500,000? What would happen? Everybody in esports wants to look bigger and better than what they truly are. And the belief is that if you do that, and there is an element of truth in this, but the belief is that if you look bigger and better than what you are, then more will come to you. And I remember for the Four Kings UK organisation, they believed in that ethos, and it's what ran them into the ground. And I'm pretty sure a lot of organisations, you know, they spend big like they've got more money than they have because they think everyone's going to be like, ooh, I want to sponsor them. But it doesn't always work like that. So you won't even get access to the numbers that you need to be able to reach out to somebody else and say, well, look, I generated, you know, 500,000 uniques on this one story that I wrote. And that's a big fucking deal for any website. So I think you should pick me up. And I think that level of traffic is worth X amount. You won't have the tools to do that. So what you need to do is you need to be able to quantify it in another way. One of the few useful things about the Reddit system is you can say to a prospective employer, I got top of the League of Legends Reddit 5 times last month, and they'll have a rough idea of what top of the League of Legends subreddit means in terms of traffic. They can quickly add the numbers and they'll be like, actually, you're worth this amount. But again, then it depends on how the organization you're working for is run. If they literally monetize their content directly through ad clicks, holy moly, you're going to get fuck all. You're going to get no money. They're going to offer you like $200 a month. And you're going to have to be grateful for that because that's probably paying you what they're going to make from your content anyway. And, you know, that's... No one's a business, per se, in this business. There's so many people that aren't businesses, but they don't want to say, look, we're not really good at monetizing what we do, and we need help with that. And please, can someone help us? And actually, if the people who've been in the industry a lot longer spent just a bit of time helping up-and-coming businesses, you know, actually learn how to monetize and survive and evolve and develop, we'd have a much stronger scene right now, but we don't do that in our industry. We're actually very selfish and, we're very close-minded about the idea of helping competitors. Now, I would urge any of you, if you're interested on this topic, to read about how the Sam Adams Brewery operates in America, where during a hop shortage, they actually went out to other breweries and gave them hops from their stockpile because they're like, we don't want the industry to bottom out. And we've got a responsibility as one of the most successful components of this industry to prop up the smaller elements. And their CEO talks about this a lot, how actually helping up-and-coming people in the industry when you're an industry leader only actually helps you in the long run and makes the overall industry better. It's like everyone in esports always says, oh, we're trying to grow the pie so everyone gets a bigger piece. But what they mean is we're trying to grow the pie because we own the pie and we want more pie. That's the reality of it. So anyway, so at that stage, once you've got your first paying job, by now, what are we talking? I'd say you're probably coming close to the end of your year and you're making $200 a month. Congrats, welcome to esports. Now you got to think about getting that real job again because all your savings have gone away, or your gap year's ending, or you're about to graduate from university, or you've just been living on unemployment benefit and the government said, fuck you, I've had enough of this, you doly scum, you got to go get a job. So you're at desperation point now. And you start saying to your employer, like, if you don't pay me more, I'm going to have to quit. And the amount of people, even now, and I'm talking about high-profile people that get jobs in esports, literally on that decision. They say to whoever is holding the money, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to quit this business if I don't get paid a living wage. And they make the decision and they go, okay, fuck it. We'll bite the bullet. But by that point, that's rare. You've got to have something very special. Now, the only other option at this point is to kind of self-monetize. And you can do it. You can make a blog, put your content on that. You can make a YouTube channel, put your content on that. But we've had so much saturation of content and ways to monetize the content that it's actually been devalued inherently. Like, you actually earn less money now. The people who are streaming to 9,000 people today, if they were streaming to 9,000 people a year ago, the money would be apples and oranges. It's not the same amount. And, it's the same with YouTube channels. The original YouTubers were making bank. People who were getting, 25, 50,000 hits on a video, you're not getting a whole lot of much. I mean, I've not even looked at what we monetize for First Blood and stuff. I put ads on there, but I'm under no illusions. I don't think I'm going to look and it's going to be like, oh, I got thousands of dollars. I won't even have broke 100, maybe not even 50. So self-monetizing needs you to be, again, special, popular, be able to manipulate the social media system and be able to get an intake of traffic, and you need to be prolific because the YouTube system encourages posting not one quality video now and then, but actually posting a video every day, which lends itself to a reduction in quality. That's how YouTube works. So breaking into the industry, holy shit, you've got to really want it. I mean, you've got to want to be here. And dude, okay, so this might sound like a real fucking downer. But I said this in other interviews, and I want to say this to you guys because I think it's important that that even somebody like myself can really struggle. So when I made the decision that I was going to get into esports, I had a taste of it. I liked it. I didn't want to go back to an office job. I didn't want to go back to running up credit card debt to try and be a freelance journalist, and chase that particular dream. Because I was doing things like wherever I thought there was an interesting story, I'd travel to it on my credit cards, and I'd cover the story, and then I'd try and sell the story to a magazine. And more often than not, I just lost a fuckload of money doing that. But I thought, all I need is that one big story. All I need is that one big break. And I kept getting myself in a hole more and more financially. And I got very lucky not very soon, But, you know, I got noticed very quickly. Like, back in 2006, I got nominated for my first esports award. And I was the first guy who was writing about Counter-Strike Source that got nominated for that kind of award. And people were trying to get me to write about other games like Dota and 1.6 and stuff. And I was like, no, I'm going to stay doing this. But CGS came along in 2007, and they paid me a fuck ton of money. But it only lasted like 6 months. It was a short ride. So I don't know if it was worse. I got paid, and I was like, right, I'm putting all my eggs in this basket. This is going to last forever. This is legit now. CGS goes under. I'm no longer part of it before it goes under. And I'd moved to Birmingham to work in the building where CGS was held, a LAN center called Amiga Sector, where they made me a bunch of promises about how we were going to have our own like in-house Amiga Sector TV for gaming, and it would just be me interviewing gamers all day and shit. And then that didn't materialize, that didn't set up, and that went under. So I went from living the esports dream, having 2 esports jobs, to within little more than a year having been made redundant twice and having to go and write for a Birmingham City Council magazine. So I took a massive hit in the pay, and I had to move in with a friend, and I was sleeping in a spare room, and I was like, it's just temporary. And they were married, and you know, it was a tiny room, maybe even half the size of this. It had a fold-out sofa bed. And I had, after I paid rent and everything, I had like £30-40 a month to live on. You know, it was nothing. I lost a bunch of weight. I couldn't eat. Couldn't like really afford to eat a lot. Well, I could have done, but I was so miserable and I was, you know, suffering from depression and stuff at the time. That I was spending most of it on booze. And the only booze I could afford to drink was like that horrible, like cheap white cider. So picture the scene. This is like a guy who's been nominated for like esports awards. This is a guy who is considered one of the better writers in esports. This is a guy with like a promising esports career. And a guy who had allegedly made it, you know. And I was sat with no money, miserable as fuck, no paying esports job, having to work hard and volunteer. And I just said, I'm going to give this another 6 months, and you know, I'm done. Like, maybe done with life. Like, I'm not gonna fucking live like this. I'm not gonna go back to a fucking office job, and I'm not gonna fucking put up with this shit. You know, if I don't get to do what I want to do with my life, then fuck it. Existing ain't worth it. So I was at that stage, and a thread popped up on the website I was working for. I was doing a lot of stand-up on the nights as well. I do stand-up comedy and poetry and recitals and stuff. And I was using that to try and supplement my money. And I met some chick from Colorado who was saying, like, we had a thing, and she was saying, oh, I got to go back to Colorado very soon. Visa's running out or whatever. Why don't you come back and you can stay, and, you know, I'll marry you, and you know, you can just live in America. And that gave me a little, you know, maybe I can, you know, be some writer out in the States or something. But I wanted esports. I wanted it to be a continuation of all the work I'd done. So a thread popped up. I told the people who were running the website, and I said, dudes, if I don't make some money from this soon, I don't know how I'm going to go on. Like, I'm at the edge. Like, I'm on the precipice. And they were like, well, right now there's no budget, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, okay, I'm probably going to have to go to America, you know. And they were like, well, sorry to lose you, but okay. And then a thread got made on Cadret. And it was created by, you know, a player. And it was Pay Gonzo. Gonzo used to be my gamer name. And they explained the situation, like, we're going to lose Richard Lewis. He's going to go to America. He's really struggling right now. It's sad, you know, he's done so much for this website, and we all love his content. And bam, you know, it took off. It was everyone in the thread, pay him, please don't let him go, no. And I woke up the next day, and I got a phone call from the bosses, and there was like this 1,000 comment thread, which is pretty big for the website. Everyone saying Richard Lewis is the best thing about this website. Pay him. And they said, okay. we can make something work. And I got my first esports job where I was making like 1,000 a month, which still isn't great, but that's what kept me in here. But I was like that close. I was fucking out of my mind, stressed with it all, and really, really depressed, really miserable, skint, no money. So it was fucking tough. So you've got to fucking want it, man. Like, I was comfortable with that choice. I was like, I'm gonna make that decision, but I wouldn't recommend that for everybody. That was it. To get into esports for me was hard. To be here now is hard. One of the reasons why I'm so fucking sensitive about people trying to tear me down is I know what I went through to be here now, and that's why I'm sensitive about it, because I put myself out there and took a fucking huge risk, and it meant everything to me to be able to do this. So yeah, getting started in the industry, it shouldn't be that disgusting. It shouldn't be that difficult. Talent should speak for itself. But if if you're not willing to take if you're not willing to do the hard yards, you're not going to be successful. Unfortunately, esports makes it difficult. So we'll move on to a bit more of an upbeat topic, I promise. How often do I play LOL? Asks Spadjet. Too fucking often. It's the only game I play, and it makes me very, very sad every time I do. One thing I'll tell you, I've played it all, I played it pretty much every ELO except very high diamond. So obviously I played it bronze, played it silver, played it gold, played it plat, played in low diamond, MMR. And there's no fun to be found. Not on EU West, anyway. Just no fun anywhere. Like, it's just... Every game is a slog, like, from the lobby onwards. The only difference between high and low ELO, from what I can tell, is that in the lobby, people in bronze will fuck up the picks because they don't understand the meta, or they just want to play a carry and they think that's going to work. And me no support and blah blah blah. When you get to fucking plat, for example, people are just troll picking because they all got the mentality that they're destined for Diamond 1, so they can just do whatever the fuck they want. So you end up with the same experience just for different reasons. So yeah, it's fucking... it's really weird. I don't know why I play the game. Like, I genuinely say I maybe enjoy 1 in 30 games. The rest of them are just awful. Win, lose, there's not really a lot of fun in there. And maybe that says something about me. But I imagine, actually, there's a lot of people who experience the same thing. Like, the game is, it's a bittersweet relationship you're locked into. I think we feel... compelled to play because we know it can be fun. It's like going out, to a nightclub or whatever. It could be amazing. You could meet the most beautiful hot woman ever, and she's gonna totally dig you, and it's gonna change your life, and you're gonna be witty and urbane. You're gonna hit just the right level of drunk, where everything you say is like super amazing, interesting, and funny, and it's going to be the best night of your life. But more often than not, you're going to go out, you're going to bump into someone, they're going to punch you, you're not going to pull, and you're going to eat a fucking greasy kebab, which gives you food poisoning, and you're going to spend the rest of the night hugging a toilet. It's got the potential to be amazing every time you go out. It's got the potential, but more often than not, your nights are very decidedly average and sometimes unpleasant. And I think that sums up Solo Q. Yes, thank you, my new subscriber friend. So anyway, we'll give away, we've got another Evolve Alpha key to give away to people who are watching the stream. We're up to 2,000, guys. Wow, this is really overwhelming. Wasn't expecting that many to just come for the AMA. But what I would advise is quickly get your Activate the Steam product windows open. And I'm going to paste this. So 3, 2, 1. Boom. There you go. And that's a another Evolve Alpha key. I got given a bunch today. I don't really need them all, so give them away to people watching the stream. Right, so I'm just quickly catching up. I got loads of fucking Skype windows open and stuff like this. God. Right. And yeah, okay. So a friend of mine has asked me on Skype, why do you never see any African Americans on your stream or in your interviews? And I would disagree with that. I mean, I gotta say, it's a real shame in a lot of ways that we don't have a more diverse demographic in esports. But I've certainly met and interviewed black gaming personalities. But as Black Enola joked the other day with his announcer pack, he was like, there's me and Sky Williams in league. Where's everyone else? So it's crazy, man. Like I wish esports did have a more diverse landscape. Like seriously, I do, because I'm not used to working in industries that don't have that, frankly. But I have no idea. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm not qualified enough to answer the question about what that might be. I think, obviously, esports is a growing thing, and I think the demographic will flourish and flower a little bit more as we go on. But I think for now, I think it's quite clear that the demographic actually does mean other ethnicities and religious backgrounds. I'd even go as far as to say gender, as well. We've got some real underrepresentations out there, and I hope that's not because people don't feel welcome. I hope that's not because the scenes are so hostile to those, to people of those particular groups, because that would suck. Now, I said this in the Die Noobs documentary, like one of the great things about esports and any kind of internet community is that the barriers that really divide us in society, that shouldn't divide us, that are totally stupid and ridiculous, that they're divisive in the slightest. There's no need for them to persist here. We can make our own rules. We don't need to bring the bullshit baggage from outside of esports and gaming into it. We don't need to do that. We can completely rewrite the rules here, and I think we're getting better at doing that. So, check my spam. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to the AMA. Richard, you still need to tell the three-finger story, but my question was about last week's First Blood, when you said I've been a coach in the past. I'd like to be a coach. Was this you stating that you want to start coaching a professional team? Was that you posing a question for the guests and co-hosts about what it's to be a coach? So, that's from Spendro. Right, so first thing, the three-finger story. Basically, long story short, I used to be in a bad relationship with this is a long time ago. I was in a bad relationship. It was pretty abusive, and I was the victim of the abuse. So I basically had this very domineering and aggressive girlfriend who was like real feisty would be the word for it. And she had all these stipulations about how the relationship should work. One of which was that I had to have a curfew. Embarrassingly, I was a little bit whipped or henpecked or whatever you want to call it. So I used to have to be in by midnight. She was convinced if I stayed out after midnight that I must be cheating or doing something terrible, which is ridiculous because again, look at me, right? So my options are pretty fucking limited. So, anyway, now I played a lot of rugby, and there was a guy in the rugby team who he'd left, and we didn't see him for ages, and he turned up unannounced, and he was super important to the rugby team because all of our initiates that joined the team, right? He had this ball sack which came down like to his knees, like the old man balls on Johnny Knoxville, right? And it was just freakish. It was like an aberration. And one of the things we used to do in the rugby team, if you wanted to join the rugby team, you had to have a drink that was anointed with this dude's balls. His balls had to be dipped into your drink, and you had to drink it. That's how you got to join the team. Because rugby players are like that. We're all fucking gross. So anyway, this dude, the Lord of the Ball Sack, turns up again. I'm like, motherfucker, I ain't seen you for fucking ages. We start slamming him down. We start chugging. And I realized, I look up at the fucking clock. Holy shit, it's past my curfew. Better get back. So I'm pissed as fuck. And I'm sprinting, like drunk, stumbling over, trying to get home. It's already too late, but every minute counts. And I get in, and she's stood there just fucking waiting for me. And I'm like, hey, baby. I was hanging out with, my friend who does the thing with the balls, and I'm sorry, I lost track of time. She went into the kitchen, and I followed her in there. And she'd picked up these the sharp scissors, you use for trimming the bacon or whatever the fuck in the kitchen, and she's kind of like holding them, and I'm like, "Sup, baby," And anyway, she gets very aggressive and basically attacks me with these scissors, and I put my hands up to defend myself, and these two fingers here. I don't know if you'll be able to see this on the webcam very well. It's an HD one, but these two fingers, you can see they're kind of bent here. And I've got a skin graft here as well. They got cut off, like not all the way off, but like this one. Again, I hope you can see this. This pad here got took off, and the bone was like sticking out. But that one got sliced and was hanging off that way, and blood was, Now I didn't realize this, but there's arteries in your fingers. There's arteries in your fingers. The dumb fucking place to put arteries, because your fingers get stuck in everything, and you slice them and you cut them, and why would you put arteries there? This is how you know there isn't a divine creator, because that's like a fucking big design fault. So I'm looking at these fingers, like fucking Skeletor from fucking He-Man, and the fuck. As my heart is like, it's going like, like out the fucking end, like something out of a comedy show. And there's no pain, actually. When you experience like horrific trauma like that, there's no pain. Your body shuts down. You go in a shock. So I'm just like, I even said to her, my exact words, I think you've done me a bit of a mischief here. That's what I said, a bit of a mischief. And I was like, you're probably going to have to drive me to hospital, actually. And she was like, get fucked. get fucked. So I had to call the ambulance, wrapped it up in a tea towel. Hello? Yeah. And this was in the middle of nowhere. This was in the arse end of Wales. So it took fucking ages. I'm amazed I didn't bleed out and die. So that's the finger story. So here's the other thing, the funny part, right? It's all hilarious. So I get down there, and I got a mad fear of going under for surgery. Like, general anesthetic. Nope, not happening. I just, no, not happening. So I said to the doctors, I was like, dude, fuck it, man. You're not knocking me out. I'll check myself out of this hospital now that you've stitched my fingers up. I don't care. I'll just have them not there. It's not a problem. And they were like, well, we're not going to let you do that. We can work around your ridiculous and irrational fear. So they took a massive syringe. They took this massive syringe, but like the thing like you would inject a fucking horse, like with, and they put it straight into the nerve that runs through your armpit to kill the arm, so there's no feeling there. And that fucking hurt, by the way. That hurt more than the actual snip. And got my I've got my hand right, so I'm just there, and they're doing the surgery, and the doctors that are doing the microsurgery on my hand, they're just listening to Queen, right, like just chilling and talking, and they're talking to me because I'm awake. I mean, I'm looking over. They've got this like little tent around my hand, and I'm like looking over, looking at it, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? I'm watching my hand get sliced up, and I can't feel it. It's fucking surreal as fuck, right? And I've got Queen's greatest hits in the background. Like, I could never listen to Queen ever again after this. And the doctor says to me, he goes, you got any hobbies? Do anything with your hands? And I was like, actually, play guitar in a band. And he went, not anymore, you don't. And that was the end of that conversation. So yeah. So, needless to say, that relationship didn't last much longer after that. So that's the Three Fingers story. There you go. To answer the rest of your question, Spendro, I was being quite honest and genuine. I've done a lot of coaching. I've done sports coaching. I've coached both men and women sports teams, and kids, various ages. And I really like it. I think I got something to offer. And if there was a League of Legends team that would be willing to give it a try, even if it was just an amateur team, even for like a split or just whatever constituted a season, depending on how far down they were, I'd love to give it a go. I think it would. I honestly believe I could bring something to the table. Not fingers, obviously, but yeah. So fuck it, dude. I think if anyone would be willing to take a punt on me, I'm not going to be the kind of coach that's going to sit and say, well, what you did was you went for Baron and you should have used Smite, and it's not going to be like that, but more about communication skills, preparation, how to deal with certain emotional states. These are all things that I've got a lot of experience with. So I'd love to give it a go, but obviously no one's going to touch me with a 10-foot pole, so it's fucking irrelevant. So, right, dude, when do you actually stream games? This is Nintenti. The Organ Trail stream, for example, was hilarious. We'd love to see more of those kind of games. Do you have a schedule or something? So, okay, Nintenti, thanks for allowing me to advertise my shit on my shit. It's pretty good of you. What I'm going to do is, I think, I'm going to try and draw up a schedule, because I don't want to be one of those streamers that just streams like one games. I just, I don't want to be that guy. Like I play a lot. When I've got the time, I play lots of games. I got very broad tastes in games. I don't just want to stream League of Legends to kind of like cream the fact that I'm vaguely known in League of Legends. And they all want to see how good I am. So next time I say like, oh, he's a bad player, they can go, well, we watched you stream and you're fucking shit, mate. So I was thinking about ideas like having it done by thematically. So like Mind Expansion Mondays. We play educational games that require a lot of thought and have an educational component to them. Turn-based Tuesdays, you do turn-based games. So, and just kind of having a rotation, to use that League of Legends term, of games. At the moment, it's been really difficult. Like, I'm stretched really thin with these shows, and it's gonna leave me with like maybe 3 days a week that I could possibly stream, but I am going to stream more in my free time. It's something I really want to do. I like interacting with all you guys. I've already got a little hardcore regular group in my stream. Great guys. I've modded them all, because they're really cool people. And actually, it's, I feel... I feel really actually attached to them already. These people are supporting my content, and I think it's great. I get to hang out with them. We played games together on Steam. They're playing games with each other. It's like watching the genesis of a gaming community that used to happen back when I first got into gaming. And it's really nice to be part of that. So I'm definitely going to stream more. I just don't know how exactly it's going to work out. So, right. Next question. I'm not going to answer that one. Already answered that one. Text-wise, what do I think of the state of Counter-Strike Go? Has it got a good future? That's asked by Malhorus. So, Malhorus, Counter-Strike Go is fucking... It's in a great spot right now. It's got everything it needs, and it's only going to get better. It's took Counter-Strike, and I would even argue, with the exception of like Dota and League of Legends, team-based esports into a very, new direction. I love FPS games, and I love the energy and the drama and the moments that they bring, because ultimately there is something incredible that that can happen in a game of Counter-Strike that can't happen in a game of League of Legends, really, realistically, and that is like, I know, an incredible 1v5 clutch, with one bullet headshots, or just amazing, aim and mechanics just in the heat of the moment, and anything can happen in a game of Counter-Strike, because as long as you've got that